Lewis Hamilton is convinced that there's more despair to come in the 2026 Formula One season, as a turbulent year rolled on with another bruising weekend at the Las Vegas Grand Prix. The seven-time world champion suffered a career first, qualifying stone last on merit, something that hadn't happened in his 19 years at the top of the sport. Once the lights went out, the Ferrari driver sliced his way forward and muscled into the points. But his charge stalled behind Nico Hülkenberg's Sauber, with the medium tyres offering too little bite to complete the move in the final laps. Hamilton initially crossed the line 10th, but later inherited 8th after both McLarens of Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri were disqualified for technical breaches. Speaking to BBC Radio 5 Live, Hamilton said, "It's a terrible result. There is nothing positive to take from today. I'm eager for it to end. I'm looking forward to it ending. I'm not looking forward to the next one." When asked if that frustration meant he wasn't looking forward to the next stop in Qatar, Hamilton responded, "Next season." Lewis Hamilton described his Las Vegas Grand Prix weekend as nothing short of horrendous, admitting he really struggled from start to finish. When asked if he was satisfied with the results Ferrari produced, this is what he had to say. "It was pretty straightforward. It was a pretty straightforward first lap. I just stayed out of trouble. Zero satisfaction. The most meaningless 10 places doesn't mean anything. It's still a bad weekend. At the moment, I'm not reflecting on it. It's obviously the same as the last one. There's no point in repeating what I said the last time, because it's exactly the same." And when asked whether he had at least taken some encouragement from the car's early race pace, the 40-year-old didn't exactly radiate optimism. "No, I really struggled. After the start, I struggled with balance. I was just really struggling with the brakes that we have. Locking the fronts, locking the rears. There was just no in-between, no middle ground. I was catching Nico Hülkenberg, but had the slowest pace, so I wasn't really particularly quick. Then I got some damage with the Williams, and everything changed after that. Horrendous weekend, another one just to add to the list." What truly soured Hamilton's night, however, was his mounting frustration with Ferrari's strategy calls. Hamilton hasn't always hidden his emotions over the radio, a tendency that recently prompted pointed remarks from Ferrari CEO John Elkann. And even after a generally solid race in Nevada, he remained far from satisfied. Moments after crossing the line, Hamilton jumped on the radio to challenge his race engineer, Riccardo Adami, about the team's strategic choices. He said, "What happened with the strategy? How did I end up in 10th? I thought we were looking good at one point. How did Mercedes, that were behind me, get all the way up there?" Charles Leclerc was just as frustrated over team radio, unleashing a furious rant as he blasted Ferrari's fucking embarrassing qualifying display at the Las Vegas Grand Prix. The Monegasque could do no better than 9th on the grid for Saturday's race, trailing the Racing Bulls duo of Isaac Hadjar and Liam Lawson, as well as Fernando Alonso's Aston Martin. Leclerc didn't wait long to vent his anger. The moment he crossed the line, he erupted in a profanity-laced message condemning Ferrari's performance. "My God, embarrassing, fucking embarrassing," the 28-year-old said. "Fucking hell, I don't get how we can be so off the pace. There's like zero grip, zero fucking grip." Speaking to reporters afterward, Leclerc traced his frustration with Ferrari's wet weather weaknesses all the way back to his arrival at the team in 2019. "Unfortunately, it's not just today," he explained. "It's been like that since I joined the team. We've been struggling massively at finding the grip in those kind of conditions. It's hugely frustrating because it's probably been my biggest strength in the junior categories, and then we are doing something wrong. I have no idea what that is because we've turned the car upside down. We've had Lewis and obviously Carlos before joined other teams who could tell us the feeling they had with the other cars. It's just extremely difficult to find the grip with our car. Very, very unpredictable with our car, which causes us to do a lot of mistakes. It's not that we are not trying, because as a team, we have tried absolutely everything. For some reason, we just haven't found our way yet." And much like Lewis Hamilton, Leclerc was left scratching his head over Ferrari's race strategy in Las Vegas, despite delivering a drive he felt was near perfect. Asked post-race whether he could take any positives after a tough qualifying session, Leclerc made it clear he couldn't understand the strategic calls made from the pit wall. Well, I mean, not really. It's P6, so it's still very frustrating to only finish P6 when you start P9. On the other hand, if I look at my race, it's been a bit of a crazy race. I had to take massive risks to overtake because we were very, very slow in the straights. On that side, it was an entertaining race. But then I don't really understand what happened around the pit stop. But it seems that we've lost quite a few places, so we'll look back at that, whether we could have done something better there. Still, the Monegasque expressed zero doubts about his own performance, insisting he left nothing on the table. It was a bit of a tough race to manage, but I don't think I could have done anything better, he said. It was just a bit of a shame to get stuck behind Oscar that had the DRS exactly at the point where I was catching up Oscar. And that made it very difficult for us. I was pushing 200% the whole race. I don't think I left anything on the table. I just think they had a bit more pace towards the end, but I also had pushed a lot behind them to try and get as close as possible. I had to, because otherwise I would lose DRS, and without the DRS, I was dead slow. Ferrari team principal Frédéric Vasseur urged calm, saying he'd take Hamilton's remarks into account after the team's debrief, while also noting that emotions run high in the immediate aftermath of a race. Let's calm down. To jump out of the car and to make the first comment, it's always a bit too much, and let's discuss after the debrief, Vasseur said. Obviously, it's been tough for Lewis the last couple of weekends, and he said it's been hard. I can understand the reaction from Lewis just after the race, but we just have to calm down to discuss and to be focused on the next two races, because the next two we will be back. And keep in mind also that Lewis was there in FP1. In FP2, the pace was good, and it means that we have to build up the weekend like this, and for sure to start from P20 is not the best way to have a good result. Despite another winless weekend, and a victory drought that has now stretched beyond a full year, Frédéric Vasseur remains adamant that the SF25 still has the raw pace to win a race before the season closes. For a team that has watched far too many chances slip through its fingers in 2025, a late-season triumph would carry enormous emotional weight. Pushing back against the frustrations voiced by both of his drivers, Vasseur insisted that Ferrari's Las Vegas outing shouldn't be pinned on the car itself. Despite the disappointing result, the team principal offered a far more optimistic reading of the weekend. Speaking to Sky Sports F1, he said, "The message to the fans is that there are still 2 races to go." The Frenchman argued that Charles Leclerc was genuinely quicker than both Kimi Antonelli and Oscar Piastri, but was unable to fully exploit his pace because he spent so much of the race mired in turbulent air. I think it's difficult to say when you finish 6th, but overall the issue wasn't the pace. It was not putting everything together in qualifying. Addressing the team's strategic approach during Leclerc's pit stops, Vasseur further explained. Charles was probably faster, but he got stuck behind them, Piastri and Antonelli. Now we need to avoid making the same mistake in Qatar and Abu Dhabi to try to win a race between now and the end of the season. It's Leclerc's strategy, not that simple, because if we had stopped 1 lap earlier, we would have come out behind Sainz. The strategy was to be more aggressive and pit before Oscar Piastri. But it's always easy to talk after the race. Hamilton currently sits 6th in the standings, 73 points adrift of Ferrari teammate Charles Leclerc in 5th. Despite a sprint race victory in China earlier this year, the 40-year-old has yet to stand on a Grand Prix podium for Ferrari. If he doesn't finish in the top 3 at either of the final 2 rounds of 2025, it would be the first season in his F1 career without a podium. Hamilton already described his debut season with Ferrari as a nightmare following his retirement in São Paulo 2 weeks earlier. And after the race in Vegas, he told Sky Sports, "I feel terrible. It's been the worst season ever, and no matter how much I try, it keeps getting worse." Contradictory statements coming from Ferrari's drivers and team principal. Whose feedback do you trust more? Let me know in the comments. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on the latest in Formula One. Thanks for watching.